of the things about being a CPA here that I've really come to enjoy and try to work for the bulk of my life is that as a CPA, you're more than just an accountant or a tax man for these people. You are kind of like their doctor, their psychologist, and everything else.
You know, I actually knew that I wanted to be a CPA when I was in high school.
All I really wanted to do was to go to school and get a job.
Well, initially, I was going to go to San Francisco.
I decided to go back to school to get the classes I needed to be able to sit for the CPA exam.
Back in those days, there weren't a need for CPAs, and so I never really knew what a CPA was. And then I came back to Montana, came back to Bozeman, and went right to school, and I was going to be a teacher. And I saw how much teachers made, and I saw how much CPAs made, and I thought, you know what, I think I could be one of those.
You know, Montana CPAs are resourceful, and they have to be resourceful. We live in a very large state. Many times, like when I was at Golden Sunlight Mine, you aren't working with any other accountants. So to come up with a solution to a problem, you have to have a good network. And you have to be resourceful. You have to figure out how to come up with the solutions that aren't that evident. Whereas if you work in a large firm in New York or Chicago, there's somebody else that knows that answer. So you have to be resourceful, you have to be creative, and you have to constantly focus on that client, what the client wants. And that's fun. That's the challenging part of being a CPA in Montana. It's what I like.
Commonality for all CPAs is we're hard workers. So I think there is, at least traditionally, a number of years when you start your career that most everyone works very hard. And I think it's to be expected. I think that's changing in the profession now. But again, the first few years, a lot of learning. I mean, you learn a lot in school, but you really receive on-the-job training, whether you go in public or private once you start out. And it's a lot of, frankly, kind of blood, sweat, and tears for a few years. And not that that's a bad thing, but you really kind of learn how to be a CPA and be successful.
Well, yes, and that's absolutely true. You know, you might be a CPA and that's how you make your bread and butter and everything else, but you're also a human being. And you know, this is a big, big country and we got a lot of things going on in Montana. We've got some of the most outstanding recreation in the world. We've got scenery that is undescribable, indescribable. We have things in Montana that I don't know you can really have in many, many of the other states. And the other thing is that we're very human in Montana. You know, we all have our trials, our tribulations, but also we're always friends. We're good friends. And that's what makes Montanans.
The people who go to the annual meetings every single year they're just kind of an amazing group of people. These aren't people that you're normally going to run into because they're other CPAs in public practice, CPAs in industry, CPAs in government. You know, you're not usually working with all the different ones, and even CPAs in general think that other CPAs are their competition. So they're not normally just sitting in a comfortable setting that's not competitive. And some of these people have so much fun at these meetings. And you know, there's the huge stereotype that accountants aren't fun. Some of them really are.
Marilyn Bartlett, she is probably the least typical CPA that I know. Even though in a professional stance, she is probably one of the most professional women I know, but outside of that office, she is uncontrollable. And she is out of control. Just ask her husband, Ed.
Oh, that is funny. I'm going to have to think about this one. There are so many funny stories about things that have happened over the years between and with members of the CPA Society. We have had so much fun. Now, I'm trying to think of one that would be politically correct to tell. And most of the ones that come up that aren't involve Gordy, involve Ron Yates.
Well, I've got more on Maryland, but
involve, oh, the list is long, but none of them involve me. I have been perfect through this whole thing, but I'll tell you, the rest of them are something to be reckoned with.
And Boyd and I and our wives and several other Montanans went to the 100th anniversary convention of the American Institute of CPAs. And this one fellow said, "Boy, you can't believe the funny thing, the most strange thing I saw last night." And I said, "What was that?" And he said, "Well, we went to the Hard Rock Cafe." And he said, there was a guy there, and all of a sudden, he jumped up on the stage and ripped open his coat, and he had a Superman's costume on. And I said, "Oh, I know who that is. I can even tell you his name. It's Boyd, and he's from Butte, Montana."
Ron Yates had like this office in his house, and there was a picture in there of it was either his son or his daughter that was sitting on the toilet reading like the MSCPA or the Journal of Accountancy or something like that, and under it said, I think it said Future CPA.
At an annual meeting not too long ago, image in my mind of Marilyn throwing panties at the annual meeting on this Beatles tribute band.
We had a Beatles tribute band, and one of the other CPAs got it in his mind that, I don't even know, somebody brought it up that said, you know, oh, when the Beatles were playing, you know, the women used to throw their underwear on the stage. So one of our older male CPAs thought it would be a great idea to go down to the local Walmart or Target or whatever it was and buy some ladies' underwear, and they brought him back to the meeting and passed him out to a few people. Marilyn was one of them, and I was right there with her. And you know, eventually we were like the little go-go girls up dancing by the stage, and I think Marilyn was the first one that grabbed hers and actually threw them at the stage. And
then realizing that the AICPA president-elect is standing there right next to her. And I don't know if they were from her personal collection, but they were quite large panties. But
and the poor guy the guy was singing a song and he was in the middle of it, and he just kind of stopped and looked around and then tried to go back to what he was doing and tried to pretend like it didn't happen, but people were just howling. I mean, thankfully it was more towards the end of the night, so, you know, most of the people weren't offended at that point. But
Well, I would invite everyone to come to the 100th anniversary meeting of the Montana CPAs for this reason. An organization is only as strong as its members. The more members we have that are actively participating in our organization, the more good we can do as an organization for America. And I'm talking not only about tax, it's business, it's everything, including just being very, very good citizens. So that's where the strength comes from. It's from numbers. And so the more people that we get there that are CPAs and act as CPAs, the better off we'll be, and the more successful we'll all be.
I really want to encourage you to come to the Montana Society of CPAs 100th anniversary in June of 2013. It is a celebration of 100 years of excellence for Montana CPAs. You only get a chance to celebrate 100 years once in a lifetime. So we encourage you to come and celebrate with us. We're going to celebrate the current members, and we're going to remember those members that came before us and recognize those that came before us. And we're going to look ahead to the future of Montana CPAs and the society going forward. So please come and celebrate with us.
Now you make sure you mark your calendar for June 2013, because that's when we'll be celebrating 100 years of MSCPA. So make sure you're in Missoula, and it'll be time to celebrate.
Yeah, it's just amazing to think what 100 years entails for our members, for this organization. That's really cool. 100 years is something that, again, as a young professional, I can't hardly fathom what 100 years has entailed in our profession. So it's one of those things that I can't imagine what 100 years from now will bring. The Montana Society of CPAs 100th anniversary celebration is going to be like no other celebration. You would have to be a fool not to be there. It's truly going to be the party of the century. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event, and I fully expect all of our 1,000+ members to show up in Missoula next year.
for a business or an organization to last 100 years is absolutely incredible. I mean, and usually when they do it, they're going to be around for another 100. You have to come to the 100th year anniversary. It is going to be so much fun. And every year is always a lot of fun, but this year is going to be a blowout. You don't want to miss it.
Well, I will just say that, you know, you better be there or you're going to be awfully square.